Hello and welcome to Around the Clock. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. On today's show, we're going to be speaking with Superintendent Jim Adams about in-person learning that has started for the Ashland Public Schools. We also have the Select Board update for the meeting that happened on Wednesday, April 7th. And we have an Around the Town tour stopping at Grinsell Park and at Murphy's Eats and Treats. We also have a sports update for Winter 2 that's happening. And of course, we're going to be heading over to Route 126. So stay with me as I bring you Around the Clock. It is time for the Around the Town tour. We have a few fun stops for you today. Our first stop is over by Grinsell Park and in back of the Ashland VFW for the Lions Toy Boat Regatta.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and we're here on this beautiful Saturday morning, standing down here at Marathon Park, waiting for the boats of the Ashland Lions Regatta.
It looked like it was a fun day. The Lions are looking for ways to fundraise. They give back to our community as well as to iResearch. And maybe you had one of the winning boats. From Grinsell Park and the VFW, we're going to head over to Murphy's Eats and Treats. They are back and they are open. They have, of course, their ice cream and they'll be serving their food soon, but they've added a new element. They've added a candy store. Thanks to Brennan Marlowe for going and getting some footage of the candy store. It was shot a little bit before Easter, so most of the candy he gets to show us is Easter candy, but I believe they will be adding some wonderful treats as the season goes on. We have two more stops for you. The first one is Route 126. Again, if you have driven on Route 126, you've seen some of the work that is being done. Some of the work certainly that's very visible is the corner of Elliott and Route 126 as they remove that hill so they can prepare to move the telephone poles back so they can widen that area for the lane that's being added as well as the sidewalks and bike path. Make sure if you live there or if you want to get updated that you sign up for the weekly emails that tells us what projects and what progress is being made each week. Our last stop on our Around the Town tour is over at the Public Safety Building. Again, a lot of earthwork, a lot of moving of ground. There will be some blasting there, but it is moving, and I was told that they are currently ahead of schedule. You can also check out their Facebook page where they're updating on a regular basis as to what's going on, and of course via the town website. And next is some upcoming events. The first is a fundraiser for the Ashland Bark Park. The Dog Park Committee will be having a fundraiser on May 8th with a rain date of the 15th down at the corner spot where you can get pictures taken of your puppies or just your family and puppies. A second event's going to happen a little later in the summer, but we want to make sure you get it on your calendar, is a movie night at the corner spot hosted by our own WACA-TV. The event will be happening on August 13th with a rain date of the 20th. The movie has not been selected yet, but once we know it, we will share it with you, and hopefully we'll see you all on August 13th. It's a few months away, but hopefully we'll all be vaccinated and ready to enjoy some outdoor fun together. And that wraps up our Around the Town tour.
Set point here, 24-2. Kendall for the win, off the net.
Point. Wagonseller with a
Still alive. And into the net, that'll do it. 25-2 is your final as Ashland sweeps Medfield 3-0.
And that's why Ashland is atop the Tri-Valley Large standings.
So still in.
And now on Around the Clock, we have a sports update. It will be presented by Rob Silver and Josh Abrams. Gentlemen.
And thanks, Yolanda. We're here in the Ashland Gymnasium. We just finished up this varsity volleyball matchup between the Medfield Warriors and our Ashland Clockers. And the Clockers have gone to 8-1 on the
8
season.
and 1 on the season.
My partner Josh Abrams. Tell us a little bit about the match.
Sure, 8 and 1 on the season, 5 and 0 at home. So just a dominant season for the Clockers, and tonight, no exception. They started off a little bit slow against Medfield. The final was 25-20, but they spent a good part of that first set down, and then came roaring back. A little unsettled there to begin with, but then all of a sudden flipped a switch. Everything clicked, and away they went. So a 25-20 final there in the first set, Rob.
Yeah, and the big catalyst there was the serving of Kendall Z. Once she took over on the service line, kind of calmed them down, and they really went on from there. Got to the win 25-20. The second set, a little slow out of the gates again. They found themselves down 6-3, and then it was Lauren Politica went on an 11-point service run, and they just never looked back from there.
Absolutely. Lauren looked really dominant there when she was serving. The team really responded, and that was at that point we really started to see how every bounce was going the Clocker way.
Yeah, and that second set ended up 25-15, and the third set they just picked up where they left off. Did they start with I think it was 6-8 points in a row to start?
I think it was 8 points in a row to start. It was 8-0 before they could finally break the serve.
We were talking about a shutout.
That's on us. It probably would have been a shutout if we hadn't mentioned it. Right. The old superstition.
But it's about as close as you get to a shutout without. Well, one would be closer, but it was 25-2. And again, it was Kendall Z serving, and just a total team effort. It was just
absolutely. At one point, we said they were putting on a clinic there in the third set. Just everything going right. Offense, defense at the net, the sets, just every facet of the game. The Clockers were on top.
Yeah, Kendall Z's serves were unreturnable. She had some aces in there, and not to take anything away from Medfield because they played their heart out. They were diving all over the place, but. Ashland is atop the Tri-Valley Large right now, controlling their destiny with a win on their next match against this Medfield squad. Right,
so rematch Thursday night against Medfield, and then next week, game right here on WACA-TV at 6 o'clock Tuesday night as Ashland rematches with the Hopkinton Hillers, and then closes out their season at Medway on Thursday at 5:30.
Yeah, so make sure you tune in for all the wrap-ups, and we want to thank you for watching WACA TV. I'm Rob Silver, my partner Josh Abrams.
Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Rob and Josh, for that sports update. It's great to see how well our teams are doing. Hello and welcome to Around the Clock. Today we have Jim Adams, the superintendent of the Ashland Public Schools, back to talk to us about the change in the learning environment. Jim, welcome back to Around the Clock.
Thank you. Hope everyone's well.
So I want to go back real quick. We did an interview sometime middle of the fall, and you had said that you hope to bring everybody back for in-person learning by after April vacation. I think you were seeing the future because we are just about back.
We are. It's funny when someone asked me that same question recently. I'm like, why did you pick that? I said, partly because we're thinking about the winter months and the closing of our buildings, but really the vaccination timeline, right? Trying to figure that out. Yeah, we're close. Monday, April 5th, so a couple days ago from this recording, all of our K-5 students are back full time. And then Monday, April 12th, so next Monday, a couple days from now, our 6 through 8 will be back full time. And so it's exciting, and it gives us a week of vacation to make any adjustments necessary moving forward. So.
And then is the high school going back full time as well?
They are, yeah. So we're mandated, so state has mandated K-5 and 6-8. 6-8 was mandated through to start April 28th. We just felt, why wait? Our terms ended on Friday the 9th. So
okay.
The perfect time in the same term ended at the high school. So when in talking to our teachers and we agreed that it makes good sense to start the term with our kids in, and instead of, and make adjustments over the break.
Yep.
While high schools are not mandated to be in yet, there will be information coming probably in the next week from the Department of Ed saying, hey, high schools are going to come back on X date. We just felt it's be more complicated and then have to make adjustments in the middle of May and the end of May. For what purpose?
Right. And now, you're already starting to work with the buses and the changes that have to happen there and teacher
Right.
schedules. So as you said, why do it multiple times?
Yeah, and by the end of April vacation, I alluded to this in a conversation before. We believe also the vaccination of all of our educators will be complete, meaning all of them will have been 2 weeks past their second shot. Uh,
Great.
85% of our staff have had at least their first shot and or their second shot, but that 2 weeks of full vaccination period will be after break. So that's a really good time too.
So, I think about the whole process and from where you were and the planning you did in the summer and then the changes that you had to make. And then when you had issues and you had to change to all remote learning, what has been, and I'll get to some positive, what has been the most frustrating for you through this year-long process? It's now been a year and plus. What has been the most frustrating for you as a superintendent?
So I think if you talk to surrounding superintendents as well, it would be the lack of direction that we received from the state level and federal level for that matter. I think at the beginning of time, last March, when we had to go into remote learning, that was a struggle for sure, right? We've adapted well to those things, and I think we're a much better school district because of COVID, to be honest with you. I think our teaching capacity is better and our toolbox is bigger. But yeah, frustrating that we didn't get real guidance, that we didn't get structure at the state level. I fully understand. I'm a New Englander, 6 generations of local control. I get it. But sometimes we too are looking for advice.
Right. It's like, what do you mean you want me to do exactly the same thing as the town next to me?
Right.
Why would I do that?
We're not Hopkinton. We're not right. We're not Framingham. So that was probably the most challenging. I think the uncertainty, though, Yolanda, throughout the whole thing has been,
Yeah.
to me, the most challenging. When we're asking for assistance from families, if your child is sick, keep them home. We're still
Right.
seeing today, here we are in April, we're still seeing families send symptomatic kids to school.
Wow.
And then we have to send them home. And now we have to quarantine kids in classrooms because they've now become close contacts.
Right.
And I fully, and I want to emphasize though, while we've had zero transmission in those cases, those close contacts,
Right.
it still shuts down a room and it still creates anxiety. And
Right.
it's unfortunate for those families that now have to quarantine because a family made a decision and to me, it's a selfish decision to
Right.
send their child in who's symptomatic, or they could be asymptomatic and you're positive or you're being tested. You have to
Right.
stay home. That's frustrating.
That brings me to my next question. There's all this conversation about, it's not safe to be together. Have you really seen transmissions that happen in the school? Someone comes in sick and
Yeah.
because of that, other kids are getting sick, or is it
No.
from outside stuff that's going on?
It's all outside. We had one incident back in November in one of our schools where there was absolutely transmission. Well, it's a unique situation with some unique learners who can't wear masks, and staff weren't
Okay.
following the protocol either. And that impacted a classroom, which then impacted teachers. And when you have teachers who then have to quarantine, you can't open a building because you don't have the staff.
Right.
But in terms of looking at it from the lens of, have we had positive kids in school, been identified, and then the close contacts? None of those have been, not one instance this year have we had a transmission. It's happening in households. It's running through. It's like the flu, if you will, right?
Right.
I mean, it's when when I look at my house, my wife gets the flu. Guess what? You can count on all three of the other three and the dog getting the flu, right? It's going
Right.
to happen, and that's
Yeah.
what's happening with COVID.
Yeah. So it's April. We have
Yeah.
about 2 months left in the school year.
Not
What
that
was
I'm
that?
counting. 43 days. Not that I'm counting. So.
Um, what are the positives that you're looking for toward the end of the school year to sort of wrap it up and try to give kids a good positive experience?
I think coming back, right? I think bringing them back was so critical for me, and I think our staff, look to the future, really, right? It's if we stayed remote or in this hybrid model for the remainder of the year, I think now our seniors and our high school kids are going to get a little bit of taste of, they've been out for so long, right?
Right.
They're going to get a little bit of normalcy before graduation. They're going to get some opportunities potentially to participate in their senior week activities. They are going to, the kids who are returning will now know what to expect in the fall. Masks are not going to go away in
No.
the fall of 2021. They're going to be there, but they're going to understand this is what it's going to look like in a classroom, right? Classrooms are going to be, seats 3 feet apart. You're going to have a little more structure with your day in terms of lunches. And so it gives us that opportunity, and it actually should, decrease the anxiety of all of us coming back in the fall.
Right.
Had we not done this now, the fall would have been just like the fall of 2020.
Right.
There would be anxiety. There would be concern about bringing all these kids back. Now we're able to do that. We have the science and the data that says we're not transmitting. Yes, some really good things. I mentioned before, our teaching tools are better. Our staff is more well equipped with technology. Every student now has a Chromebook in the district.
Right.
We've looked at protocols and processes with regard to cleaning and disinfecting and sanitizing. So there are a lot of positives to me.
Yeah. Good. One last question, just about, you've brought most of the students back. How many families that were full remote learners have decided to stay fully remote?
So it's a good question. I would say we had about 17% of our population K-5 that was remote.
Yep.
And then high school, smattering of kids.
Yeah.
In the middle school, probably had 100. So they had about 17% as well of the population. Yep. We a net gain of probably 20 kids from remote are coming back into the schools.
Okay.
We had maybe 2 kids who were hybrid who are moving into remote.
Okay.
Very few. It might be a little more than 2, but we still have that 15% of our student population decided, hey, you know what, Jim, we're just going to stay remote the rest of the year. It's working for us. So, but we had to pull staff from Warren and Mendez. We had those remote kids. A lot of families said, hey, we want to come back.
Right.
So we had remote teachers who now are coming back with those kids into the building.
Oh, good.
So we're still running our remote learning academy at the K-5 level, just with less teachers and less kids, but probably 10 to 15% are still out. Yeah. Good.
Well, thanks for the update, and thank you for what you and your staff do. It's, the everyday changing and not knowing is got to be tough. So it's certainly appreciated. Even those of us who don't have kids anymore, we understand what it takes.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for having me on.
Jim, I'm sure we'll touch base with you at the end of the school year to see how it wrapped up. So good luck with everything, and stay safe until we talk to you next.
Very well. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, take care. And that was Jim Adams, the superintendent of the Ashland Public Schools, talking to us about the change back to full. Thanks for watching this segment of Around the Clock. Hello, and welcome to the Select Board update for the meeting that happened on Wednesday, April 7th. We were planning an appointment at 7:15, but as we were getting the meeting started, we were notified that that was canceled. We started with citizens participation, and then when a number of citizens expressed interest about the Eversource update, we pulled that up to the top of our agenda. On the Eversource update, things are moving forward with the Energy Siting Board. They will be having a hearing on April 14th. We were able to get them to open up the hearing to new evidence. So we've been able to put some new evidence in that relates to the land court decision that only one pipe can be in the easement for Eversource. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and check out from the website information about getting into and watching that update and that hearing. From there, we did our consent agenda. We had a few items: notification of a new appointment to Jeffrey Bell at our Highway Department, then the appointment of John Featherston to the Board of Registrars, and we approved our regular session minutes for March 30th. We then moved into our old and new business. We reviewed the tentative articles for the spring town meeting that will be happening on June 12th, where there will be some planning articles as well as our usual budget items and of course our CPC consent agenda. That should be going up probably within a few weeks as to what will be on that full town meeting. We reviewed the candidates that are going to be on the ballot for our May 18th town meeting. Our May 18th town election. There were a number of people for Board of Health. There are three residents for Select Board, 3 residents for the school committee. So we will have 3 contested races on this town election. It's always great to see that people are getting involved and looking to run for elected positions. We then discussed and approved the request for multiple one-day liquor licenses. The Corner Spot is going to be open again this summer. We are so excited about that. Zealous Brewing Company, who has come to Ashland before and been at the Corner Spot, will be there on May 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, and then they'll be coming back on June 25th, 26th, and 27th. All protocols in regards to COVID will be in place, and there will be food trucks every night that the brewing company is there, because due to current COVID regulations, if you want to be sitting and having an alcoholic beverage, you need to be eating food as well. And what we voted on and at the select board is we will review, and Zealous will review the current COVID guidelines, because the guidelines that we have in place now may be in place in May, but they may change as we get into June, depending on what phase of reopening the state is at. So pay attention to that. But if you like Zealous, they have a few new beers that they're presenting. Hopefully you can stop by and see what's going on at the Corner Spot. From there, we approved the temporary outdoor seating and alcohol serving at various restaurants here in town. If you remember last spring, we worked with Beth Reynolds from our economic development director, to assist restaurants increase their outdoor seating and the ability to serve alcohol in those temporary spaces. So we approved it for a number of restaurants last night, including Mexico City, Los Cabos, Ashland Ale House, TJ's, Mozzie Corp, and Erica's. So they now all have the approval to be serving alcohol in those temporary outdoor spaces. And as the weather improves, they are all looking to bring those temporary spaces back. Ashland Ale House will be having their seating in that green space next to them. Mozzie will be adding some outdoor. Erica's is still having to do a meeting with the Ashland Library to get approval for their outdoor seating similar to what they had last year. But we wish them all luck, and I don't know about any of you, but I'm certainly excited to be able to go sit outside and have a meal again. We discussed our volunteer breakfast. This is where the select board thanks all the volunteers who step up and either get appointed by us or our other elected officials as well. We then discussed our evaluation process for the town manager and town council. There's a form that we fill out, and then we compile those for both town manager and town council. But also, if there are residents who'd like to give us feedback, we have said you can email us selectboard@ashlandmass.com, and that way all the select board members will see that, and it's on our official email addresses. We then went into our priority project updates. We talked about the rail transit district. We're going to have to ask the Y for a small portion of their gifted property, a small easement to allow the Trolley Brook Trail, because of how it was engineered and the path that it took. It goes a little bit on their property, and we've started that conversation, and that should not be an issue. Not much else going on the trail transit. We're still waiting for UGC to have their permits and start their construction. Downtown, we did get some good news. We were given $300,000 to the Shared Streets program, and we can apply it to the downtown project because we're going to be looking at improving our sidewalks as well as bike lanes and sharing those streets. Public safety and Mendez. In regards to the Mendez project, there has been some discussion about possible conservation issues and Article 97 land. A portion of the one of the dugouts, some CPC funds were used, and we're still following up on that. Based on the research and the information we've gotten from town council, we should be able to replicate those fields And then the Article 97, according to her, it's not Article 97 land. And again, that's something we'll be keeping up to date on. Public safety building, if you have driven by the parcel where the project is going, you can see that it is moving forward. A lot of the groundwork is getting done. There will be some blasting that needs to happen, and the Public Safety Committee building group is working with our fire department to make sure that all happens safely. Warren District and Valentine Estate. For the Warren District, we're looking to approve and assign the purchase and sale agreement for 433 Chestnut Street. We do need to look at putting a restriction on it. We had thought we had it figured how the restriction was going to be held, but we need to review that and revise that. Valentine Estate, the current Valentine Committee has wrapped up most of their work. They will be coming before the Select Board at our next meeting to give their final report, and then we'll be moving forward in looking at putting the conservation restrictions that are required on that property. We then talked about the Route 126 project. And again, that's another street where if you're going down Route 126, you can see the work that's getting done. That is all mostly federal and state funds that are doing that project for us. We will be putting some money in to improve some of the streetscape and some of the lighting. A new project, a new development is looking at putting some housing at the end of Pond Street at the Holliston end. We will be following that project. Steve Mitchell, one of our board members, was able to go to their presentation, and we're expecting more presentations to follow. The concern or hope is that we can then do it with some affordable housing. We then went into the town manager's report. There are 3,600 residents who are currently fully vaccinated against COVID, about 45% of our 65 and older population. So that number is going up. Hopefully, as people's time is, they get eligible once it's right now 50 and over. So anyone 50 and over hopefully is working to find their way to get their vaccination. There is the app where you can pre-register, and hopefully people have done that. We then started the discussion about the general fund, budget, and enterprise. We had a few updates, nothing big right now. We did get something added, a state park update, and there was a lively discussion about whether or not we should encourage the state park to charge for the boat ramp. They are looking to pave and line that parking lot. We have always felt that because it's free and people don't have to have a state park permit, that it encourages people to go there who have not paid to be part of the state park. And we'll keep you up to date on that. We do have an offer into a public health director, and hopefully we'll be finding out who that is, and they'll be accepting the offer before our next meeting. We wrapped up around 9:30. It was a lively discussion at different points, which is always good. And that was the meeting for April 7th. Thanks for watching this Select Board update. Well, that wraps up another episode of Around the Clock. Thank you so much for watching. A big thank you to Superintendent Jim Adams for coming and giving us an update on the in-person learning that is now happening at the Ashland Public Schools. A big thank you to Josh Abrams and Rob Silver for their sports update. And thank you to Michelle Rose and Brennan Marlowe for their help on our Around the Town tour. If you ever have a story that you'd like to share with us, make sure you reach out to us at WACA-TV or our Around the Clock Facebook page. Thanks for watching. Stay safe when you can get vaccinated, and wear your masks. Thanks for watching Around the Clock.